Hi, Phil Kurth here with a quick WordPress tip. And in this video, we're going to take a look at how to customize the WordPress REST URL prefix or the URL base. And if you're not sure what I'm talking about, if you go and open up your WordPress website, go to your domain /wp-json and hit enter, you should see some kind of data output here. You're probably going to see it more like this. It's just a big JSON string, but I'm using a browser extension to parse that into something that is more readable. If you want to use the same extension, just go Google Chrome JSON formatter, and you'll probably find this one here. Now, the REST URL prefix, so customizing the REST URL prefix. So basically what we're going to be looking at here is customizing this part of the URL, wp-json. And if you take a look at any endpoint on this API, you're going to see that they're pretty much all prefixed, or well, they are all prefixed with wp-json. You'll then see, or you'll basically always then see a namespace, and then you'll see an endpoint. But every URL on this API is going to have wp-json on it. If you open one up, you're going to see more data appears, but the URL always has that wp-json. Now, on the modern internet, it's not uncommon to see APIs prefixed with API. So what we're going to take a look at here is how to modify this so that you get the same sort of output. So you get basically an API that is prefixed with API instead of wp-json. Now it's actually it's really easy to do, and because fortunately WordPress core provides a filter that we can use to do this. And so what we're going to do is we're going to jump into our code editor, and just to show this functionality, I'm going to put it straight into the functions.php file of my theme. It works there, it's fine, but we're later going to touch on why it's probably smarter to put this into a plugin. So the filter that we need is actually within a function called REST get URL prefix. So let's go and dig that up. So I'm going to say REST get URL prefix. I should be searching for symbols. There we go. So here's the function here, and basically you'll see that this is in, give me the file. It's in wp-includes, and the file is rest-api.php. So this function here, when you take a good look at it, you'll notice that it returns this string value, wp-json, but it returns it after it runs it through a filter. And so this is basically the juice that we need. So I'm going to copy this filter, and I'm going to come over to my functions.php file, and I'm going to drop in this filter. Now I'm just going to use a Lambda function here, so I'm not going to use a named function, and I'm going to return API. You could, of course, if you really want to be particular, basically make a function called, my custom, what would we call it? My custom URL prefix. I should say REST URL prefix. Okay, you could definitely go like this if you want to, but I'm just opting for the Lambda form here, mostly because it's a preference of mine when I'm working on projects where it doesn't need to be unhooked. It's also a benefit in the sense that it doesn't add another thing to the namespace or to that global space. So it's completely up to you which way you go. It's not going to make a difference really. All right, so we've got that function in place. Now, if I go to the API now and I go to /API, we're actually going to see that it doesn't work. And the reason being is that the WordPress rewrite rules are responsible for recognizing an API request and mapping it to the appropriate handler. So what we need to do is flush our rewrite rules. I'm just going to use the WP CLI, but if you needed to, if you don't have access to WP CLI, you could just go and visit the permalinks page in the admin. Just visiting it will flush it and you'll be okay. All right, so now that we've flushed our rewrite rules, if I come back over to the browser here and I hit reload, we see that now the data is served at /API instead of wp-json. Okay, wp-json now fails. And if we look at API /API, we go and look at our other endpoints on the within the API, you'll see they're all prefixed now with API / embed / whatever. Well, so they're all prefixed with /API. So we've effectively overridden the URL prefix or the URL base for the entire API. Now, we've basically done this in the functions.php file of our theme. And this is, we could stop here if we wanted to, but I want to take a quick second and talk to you about why this would make more sense in a plugin, probably more specifically an MU plugin. So obviously themes should, I mean, you're better off if you're better off putting all your display logic in your theme and your actual sort of business logic or other types of things that persist across theme changes into a configuration plugin. Now, I could go and put it into a custom plugin in the plugins directory, but what I would opt for in this case is I would go for an MU plugin. And the reason I would go for an MU plugin is because MU plugins can't be deactivated. And this type of functionality is the type of thing that you wouldn't change once you've set it. If you were building a project and it had a public API, you'd never change this. Okay, so it makes perfect sense for it to go in an MU plugin. Now let's go and move this to an MU plugin. So if I call this, let's just call it config, like whatever really. So we'll call it config. And if I go and wp plugin list, oh, actually, sorry, I've got to rename this to MU plugins, not MU plugin. Now if I go to plugin list, we should see, there we go. We've got our config plugin and we've got a must use status. Okay, so basically that plugin is always going to be running. Now what I can do here, I can just take this snippet here and I can drop it directly into our MU plugin. Note that MU plugins don't actually need plugin headers. You can get away with leaving them out completely, that's fine. But if you want to add them in there so stuff makes more sense in the admin, go for it. Now I'm moving that into there and let's test that it works. Let's just go like this. Let's just say test and let's go and flush those rewrite rules again and come over to our API. I'm going to reload this page. It should fail, which it does. Run it at test, and there's our API. So we can now change this back to API, flush our rules again, and reload this, and so that's going to fail. And then we have our API running at our custom endpoint again. Now, just to recap, like we're customizing this using a filter, but we want to put this in an MU plugin so that it's basically persistent across the life of this website, right? Like someone would literally have to remove the MU plugin or comment this code out in order to deactivate it. So that's it for customizing the REST URL prefix. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next one.